Hello guys. I'm here with the next episode of late Friday night's Banter Blitz. I'm completely exhausted with this week, It was full of chess-related activities. At the same time, I'm happy to do a lot for chess lovers all over the world to become better players, to understand chess better, and so forth. So today we're going to play again. As usual, I will start with several games against guys I've never played before, and then we will come back to the normal order of challenges. To play against me on Fridays, you have to be a premium user, and if you're still not, it's time to expand your chess, just like it is said here. So you can do this cheaper using the code Andrey. All right, now let's get to playing. And as usual, just let me know if everything is all right with the stream, with the sound, with the picture. Just let me know in live chat. So let's have a look at our challenges. We have a lot of different guys willing to play this night, which is very nice, including Shovingforit. Wow, great. And he's among very first challengers, so we'll definitely play. Don G is also here, Kramnik student, and so on. But we are going to start with Max Shabbat, if I pronounced this correctly, from Germany, because we never played before. So accept the challenge. And I'm playing the first game with white. All right, let's start with the e4. Hello, Fuxia. Hello, 2X. Hello, guys. I'm happy you're here. Each and every one makes me happy. Castles. Exchanged variation of the Rue Lopez, which usually leads to the ending this or that way. So queens are being exchanged, I guess. Pawn on e5 is slightly vulnerable, but black has pair of bishops, which is a great thing. So in many cases I just play rook to d3 here just to avoid this damage of the pawn structure on f3, and at the same time I'm pinning my knight. So now e5 is under pressure, bishop d6 just protects this pawn. And here I usually play something like this. I'm not sure if it is the best move, but at very least it is logical, right? Because I developed the bishop prior to putting my knight on d2, so that my knight d2 won't actually limit the activity of my bishop. At the same time, I prevent black from castling long, at least right now. And if knight goes to f6, I can consider even taking the knight on f6, coming up with this interesting material relation, so two knights against two bishops. I'm not sure that I really want to capture that knight right now, so I will start with the knight d2 move, protecting pawn e4, supporting the knight on f3 additionally, and maybe slightly later I will capture that knight, maybe not. So from d2 the knight can go to c4 as well, attacking the bishop and pawn on e5, and with the help of b5 black prevents that. But b5 is kind of a hook for me, so I can use it, probably just undermining the pawn immediately by playing a4. So let's try this. It creates just a concrete threat of taking on b5 and just get into opponent's weaknesses at very least. In general, it creates some pressure on the queen side, so maybe later we can use it somehow. All right, but at the moment, black is doing well. At the moment, black is okay completely. So what about finding new targets? What about finding new objects of attack? So what if I just play h3 here? bishop to e6, or bishop to h5. Both are absolutely acceptable, so I don't see a big reason of playing that. Another idea is just to clarify the things with this knight. Let's take it. I believe it is not a good idea in general, but after g takes f6 it is more or less justified, because now the pawn structure is very bad for black. And the thing is just to get to f5 square with my knight at some point, and I will have very good outpost. Maybe I should just start right now. What about just playing knight h4 right away? I guess black should have captured with the rook, because after ab5 there is cb5 and black is fine. So there is no problem with the a file whatsoever. By the way, I noticed that there is a discussion about the time. So next week, I will do my Banter Blitz 2 hours earlier. So it will be 8 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. Central European time. So just 2 hours earlier if compared to usual schedule. Just because next week on Saturday I will be playing in a very important tournament. So king f7. What to do? It's probably possible just to maneuver my knight from d2 to f1, then to g3, and then finally to f5. But I'm also tempted by just playing knight to f5 right away. It also looks very, very logical. Because if bishop takes, pawn takes, my knight will get this great position on e4. So let's do this right now. And if king goes to e6 now, I guess I can consider something like knight to g3 or even knight to e3. So something tricky against that bishop on g4, because after king e6 it could have been slightly limited. And after this exchange, my knight on d2, which was deprived of the c4 square, gets to e4, which is great position. So there it will be very hard for black to actually attack my knight. My knight will exert real pressure on f6 pawn. It will control c5 square, it will control g5 square, so pawn f5 won't be that limited, sorry, not limited, but vulnerable. So that is what I was talking about. I'm quite exhausted and tired, so there are some mistakes in my speech. So f5 won't be that vulnerable, there will be no problem with protecting it, that's what I mean. All right, let's go to e4. Very natural move. And I have a feeling that my knight is simply better than this bishop, because this bishop is a very typical one. Typical bad bishop, limited with own pawns, having no real objects of attack. So quite passive piece. Okay. Now what? Just to take on d8, to take on b5 maybe. And to bring the king to the center. Not very convincing. Rook to h3 is also an interesting idea here. Let us try this move. Attacking h7 pawn. Because black may experience some problems protecting it. The only downside is that my knight may be attacked after rook d4, but right now it's not the case. So after king g7, pawn is protected, so now rook d4 becomes a threat. So I wanted to parry it with the c3 move, just controlling d4 square. And hence preventing preventing rook to d4, but I probably underestimated this counterplay against my b2 pawn, which is bad. Because now my b2 becomes a real object of attack and I will have definitely some problems with protecting it. Alright, so probably I have to forget about it. Let's go g4 to prepare king g2. So now there is no checkmate. And h6 is a bad idea. Now I can take on a4 simply. So black should have played something connected with just rook to a to b8, I think, counter-attacking b2. In which case I would have had some problems. I believe that my position in that line is still good. But if compared to this one, it wasn't that great. Alright, now the knight is hanging, so let's regroup the pieces slightly. King f3 was also playable completely. But this looks slightly more straightforward. Something like rook to d7 now. And this rook to c4, protecting c3 and preparing rook to c7, right? That looks good, but here's this pawn, which is quite annoying. Obviously we can stop it, but what is next? I'm not quite sure. Oops, there was a big blunder. Yeah, and then knight goes to e6 with the checkmate, or just a promotion of the pawn, or maybe both. All right. All right. All right. Interesting game. Interesting game. So I believe that black's mistake was actually here after taking on f6 with the pawn. So it was absolutely unnecessary. I guess rook takes f6 is better. In which case, the pawn structure is not that compromised on the king side. I don't have this clear plan of just moving the knight to f5. I don't have clear object of attack because pawn e5 is overprotected. I don't have a clear way to that pawn. I don't have a possibility to attack it, at least right now. And probably black overestimated this ab5 move, but in fact in this case you just recapture with the c6 pawn and you're fine, absolutely. So now your pawn structure became better after this exchange. I don't have this follow-up attacking a6 because a3 square, as you can see, controlled by the bishop d6. So once again, I'm not sure that I have anything in this position. Most likely it is equal or potentially even slightly better for black, because this mainly depends on white's possibility to find good squares for the knights. And I'm not sure it will be that easy. So that was the thing, I guess. Because after g takes f6, I had this clear plan of bringing the knight to f5, and the rest was quite simple. Okay, let's go further. Let's see if we have somebody else I didn't play before. Oh, come on, stop scrolling. So, crowning student, Dr. Balu, carving. Gabrielle Adland from Norway. We've never played before, premium user, so why not? Accept. And another game with white pieces. So the system is quite generous, at least at the beginning of this episode, and French. All right. Let's go for it. So bishop b4, one of the most popular lines against knight to c3. Another one is knight to f6, and also d5 takes e4. So three main moves. And c4 right away is, in my opinion, a mistake, because black clarifies the pawn structure too early. Now I can simply attack g7, forcing something ugly like king f8 or maybe g6. Because if compared to the situation when the pawn is on c5, there is no counterplay, so black can't really sacrifice this pawn's g7, h7. Well, black can try it, of course, but there will be no compensation. So black has to make a weakening of the position. So queen to a5 is nothing, because I can simply protect c3 with the bishop d2 or knight to e2. And I have no problems with following the simple plan of playing a4, bishop a3, I guess. So just like this, and bishop finds a great square on a3, controlling this important diagonal a3, f8, and a5 is another mistake. So this move definitely makes no sense, because I didn't want to play a5, in fact. So in any case, if you wanted to stop my pawn on a4, it was much better to use the queen, attacking c3 and a4 at the same time. So now I'm going just to bring the bishop to a3. Just a great position. So the only problem for white is to activate the light squared bishop, but okay, it's a long-term problem, but it's a manageable thing. So at some point I'll activate my pawn, so I'll play f4, g4, f5, and this problem will be solved. All right, a4 is sort of under attack. So let's bring the bishop to d6, I guess. Or maybe it's just too early. I'm not sure. Yeah, if I play bishop d6, in fact, knight to e7 and then knight to f5, maybe bishop a3 was not that necessary. Yeah. So should I just say, well, I made a mistake and come back? Because I don't like the idea of playing bishop d6. It gives black a possibility to attack my bishop. By the way, there is a tempo way of doing it, like knight h6, attacking my queen, and then knight to f5. All right, I will come back. Stupid thing, but in this particular case, I think it's better than doing anything else, because I don't really want to sacrifice the pawn on a4. So I lost the tempo. Fortunately, this position is closed. So losing the tempo is not that critical. Yeah, there are a lot of dark squared weaknesses. Black is playing this bravely, I would say, but quite risky at the same time. So now g6 is very weak. What about just attacking it like this? Yeah, bishop a3 and bishop c1 was stupid. But I don't think that black had a real chance to exploit it, because black already misplayed this position seriously with this a5 move and creating a lot of weaknesses there. So I guess it's anyway the position with a great advantage for white. This one is just one right now. Bishop a3 to bishop c1 can be called a disappearing move. Well, I provoked black playing bishop to d7, so I didn't achieve anything either. I guess it should be just called what it is, in fact, just a stupid move. All right, so bishop f6 looks very tempting. Bishop f6 looks winning, I guess. Queen f6, queen g8, rook g3, bishop d8 with the extra material for white. Rook, simply extra rook. Oh, X just posted very funny comment about this retreat that can be easily overseen, citing Nigel Short. I do believe he had something different in mind, not this one, bishop a3, bishop c1. Yeah. All right, extra rook is a big advantage. King to e7 was played. let's complete the development. It's time, because it is an endgame stage. And I'm still there, occupying initial positions with my pieces, which is a shame. Taken with the pawn is correct. King c7, okay. Centralizing the king. Now what? Occupying the open file. Penetrating the 7th rank. Just according to first chapters of my system. Not my system, but the one which was written by Aaron Nimcovich many years ago. So 2 rooks on the 7th. A great power, according to Nimcovich. Knight to e7. Intended knight to f5. Alright, I think this check should be good. Slight simplification. Now, bringing the king to more active position. King f5. Getting closer and closer to opponent's king. Okay. We are almost there. I don't really need the bishop here, but I think I will use it. I'll capture on d5 and then rook a7, rook a8 should just decide. All right, so c4 is a big mistake. You should never ever do this, well, in the future. So if you want to play closed positions, then probably you should start with the queen a5, attacking d2, sorry, c3, and after bishop d2, you play queen to a4, stopping my pawn on a3, and my bishop has no access to this great diagonal. And look, there is still a pressure against d4. So this line is dubious because of white's queen g4 move anyway, but it's quite playable, and many grandmasters choose it against knight to c3. So what's wrong with the c4? There is no longer pressure on d4 pawn, so I can easily play queen to g4, and this forces you to play something really ugly like king f8 or g6. And knight e7 was suggested in chat. This gives like no compensation whatsoever. After queen g7, rook g8, and queen h7, I simply have 2 pawns. And if compared to the famous line, which starts after knight to e7, queen to g4, and queen to c7, with the counterplay based on this. So queen to g7, rook g8, queen h7, takes on d4, and so on. That is different thing, right? So there is a concrete counterplay. So here there is no counterplay whatsoever. I just have 2 extra pawns, and I easily protect my center now. So it's lost. And after g6, I think I made a mistake. So I guess a4 is a good move, good idea in general. But after a5, of course, bishop a3 was premature, so I should have played something like h4, let's say. Typical thing here. Intended h5, forcing black to play h5 or something. And then a queen goes away. I undermine this h5 with the g4 and gradually open up a position on the king side. My bishops become monsters. This one is already here just to control all the dark squares. So black's position is strategically lost. Okay. Let us continue. One more game against a newcomer to the show. Here is Anna 2004 Premium user. We have never played before. 5 minutes. Accept. And finally, black pieces. Okay. Gonna try Nimzo. Bishop f4. London system. By the way, Nakamura played bishop to g5 against me in the morning. I was playing professional chess league and we were playing against Seattle, and Nakamura is their board number 1. I lost the game, but I had a great position after the opening. But then he just forced me into time trouble, and I misplayed a position. All right, so it's a different thing. London system. And knight to c3. All right. All right. So there's a mix of London system and Verisov, I think. I guess it's okay to take on d4. I guess it's okay to play c4 here. So the only idea is to play knight to b5, in fact, and to create a threat of knight to c7. So maybe it also makes sense for me just to start with a6 move, preventing all this, and then to see how it goes. I guess we'll play a6. dc5. Bishop to g4 looks very natural, intending to play e5. Is it just a correct approach or not? But I don't want to play e6 now. I just want to be slightly more active. So my plan is clear. I want to play e5, bishop c5, something like this. Of course, e5, e4 should be also considered as a sort of threat. Knight to a4. Okay. Preparing knight to b6, protecting c5 pawn. But I can do e5 and bishop c5 anyway, with a further check on a5. The only downside behind this, in my opinion, is that I will be in a situation playing against pair of bishops, which I usually dislike, but who knows. Okay, let's check e4 first. e4, h3, the only move. Bishop goes to h5, just g4. Okay, white is all right there. I can take on f3 now, forcing g takes f3. Is it a good idea or not? I'm not sure. Maybe not that bad in general. If I play queen a5, there is c3, and the knight is protected. That's the thing. Okay, this low energy mode, and I'm almost in the time trouble, just like against Nakamura. Okay, let's take on c5. Have you ever played Alexandra Kostyniuk? Never ever. But I played her husband. Just several weeks ago, maybe. No, not several weeks ago, just several months ago. Snow White doesn't have pair of bishops. because of this exchange on f6, but position remains quite complicated, I guess. So I have central pawns, but my pawn structure is slightly compromised, but I guess I will just castle long here. That should be fine. Maybe I overestimate my position, maybe not. We'll see. Queen a4 attacking my bishop. Okay. You know, I can try even e4 now. And then after knight e4 takes e2. And knight to e5 followed by knight to d3. But well, I'm tempted to start with rook to g8, just protecting the bishop, and then we will see. Because after rook g8, I also exert pressure on g2 potentially. And if king castles there, it will be quite important to have the rook already on the g file. It's a useful move. And castles long. All right. This is somewhat unexpected. So I have a feeling that I win some material. So g2 is hanging. f2 is the next target. I also weaken my position a lot. So I have to be careful after all this. But I think after all I have to be fine. Just have to be fine. Because if I'm not fine here, I'm just bad. Super logic. Okay. Capture on f2. e3 is hanging now. And b2 is already under pressure. Under some pressure. And this bishop is also not necessarily that safe on f7, so it is somewhat misplaced in my opinion. I can try knight to e5, then knight to d3 with the temple. Of course, white can start with the bishop e6 check, but this doesn't accomplish anything, and in any case, I'll play this knight e5, knight e3 without problems if I want. Knight e5, knight to c4 is also an interesting maneuver. So now let's just play this, of course. Okay, king goes away. There is a great threat of just knight to d3. Not even with the idea of winning the exchange, but getting to b2. So if b2 falls, everything falls. c3 as well. Now it is the fact. Takes on b2, right? King goes to a1. Queen goes to a3. This should be decisive. This should be just decisive. And not even a combination, but very simple tactical trick. Leading to a checkmate. All right, thanks for the game. Where was your mistake? I'm not sure. Because, well, everything looked not very clear right from the start after this a6. I don't think that a6 is the best move there, but, well, yeah, in fact, I could have played something like bishop g4 immediately. That was much more logical, because if knight jumps to b5, in that case, I have very simple rook to c8 move, right? And there is no threat. Knight to c7 is no longer that dangerous, and I have normally developed bishop, perfect rook on c8, because in any case the rook should go to c8 sooner or later. so everything is fine. And now if you take on c5, I'm well prepared, so I can play e5 immediately because of this pin, and then I just capture on c5 and I have a gorgeous position. So bishop to g4 should have been played. That was my mistake. I played a6. We just took on c5. I think it was correct. Here I played bishop g4, and I think that white could have played something simple like bishop to e2, prevent an e5. So now to play e5, I have to take on f3 immediately, and you just recapture with the bishop and you counterattack d5. That's the thing. For instance, after bishop f3, bishop takes f3. If I play this aggressive e5, I think I'm just worse, more or less, after bishop g5, and I don't know what to do with this d5 pawn. So it looks very, very vulnerable, and e4 doesn't really help. Bishop just goes back, and d5 is still hanging. So yeah, maybe I can play d4, but this is just bad after knight takes e4. This position looks dubious for black. So most likely I would have answered with the e6, where after you can come up with this knight a4, bishop takes c5, knight c5, queen a5, c3, queen takes c5. And I believe that white should be slightly better here because of pair of bishops, and potentially when white manages to play something like c4, and it's not really hard to do, like rook to c1 and you're good to go, white should be slightly better. That's my opinion. All right, let's go further and come back to normal order of challenges. Here is Stilts, accept. The question, today Schelling versus Andrey, whom do you bet on? Taking into account my state of mind right now, I think even I would bet on Lucas. So d4 with the knight on f3 may lead to a variety of different openings. Let's play e6. Bishop g5. And here we have Trompowsky. Let's try this. And c5. And b6. So I'm going to come up with a sort of hedgehog approach. After taking on d4, bishop e7, then I play a6, d6, knight d7, queen c7, so just like in hedgehog. Probably inclusion of the h6 wasn't that accurate, but it's still fine, I guess. Question, Andrey, any spoiler why Tarash was right? There are so many possibilities for this statement. Well, you will see on Tuesday. There will be some, again, examples from my own practice showing that Tarash was right. a4, preventing b5, okay, d6. And bishop takes f6, wow. Slightly strange, but also playable. So I have weakened e6. This looks really awful. And where to put my knight? Let's put it on d7. I can't see a better square anyway at the moment. And now what to do? Just queen to c7, I think, is, well, which is just okay, I would say. Just takes b7, d6 is hanging, but alright. It's a manageable thing, so I'll castle. So I have to come up with the minority attack on the queen side, obviously. But first of all, I have to think of what to do with all this central stuff. Okay, queen e4. Kind of forcing me to play d5, b5, and this minority attack. Should I do this or not? Let's try. So it's now Carlsbad pawn structure reversed. That's why I'm talking about this minority attack, typical plan. Queen f4. Let's go rook to c8. h4. Alright, starting the attack there. I will start the counter-attack on the other side of the board. Why I played rook to c8? Because I wanted to prevent b4 followed by knight b3, knight c5. Typical thing against the minority attack. So I'm exerting some pressure on c3, that's the point. Okay, g4 is probably dangerous, probably not, I'm not sure. g5 is a real threat, I think. I think it is a real threat. So, how to deal with this? I think sort of simplification can help. Sort of simplification should help. But g5 is already a threat, so if I want to prevent it or just make it not that dangerous, probably I have to play something like this, queen b8. And if rook takes a8, I can consider even taking on f4. Okay, I will have queen against two rooks, but the king is quite open there, so most likely I will have some real play against that setup. Now I want to take here. I don't know why. What was the point? What was the idea behind it? I also wanted just to bring my bishop to a slightly better position, like bishop e7, bishop d6. But if I play bishop e7, he already plays g5. And if I play h5, he plays g6. e6 is under pressure. e5 looks interesting, by the way, just to react to this attack on the side with the counter-attack in the center. But again, this g5 looks really annoying. Really, really annoying thing. But who cares? Let's go. Knight f8, g6, I also considered that, but I didn't want to bring my knight to f8 because of knight b3, knight c5, so I was x. So I still wanted my knight control this c5 in case that knight from d2 goes there. Let's take with the bishop, just going away from g5. If knight takes c5, knight takes c5 attacking g4. So there may be a counterattack. So this isolated pawn on d5, I think, doesn't really matter, because we're playing mainly on the king side here. That is our area. Now, how to attack, how to attack, how to attack. Tempted to try this one. Opening the position, but white's pieces are also good coordinated, so I'm not sure I will be okay after all this. But now, right now, it feels not that bad. Alright, and my knight is going to occupy f6. The only problem is obviously situation on the clock. Which is very bad. And it feels like the best result for me will be just a draw. But there are some tactical tricks. And I even won a pawn here, look at this. But there is no time to convert it. There is simply no time to convert it. Unfortunately, And obviously position should be drawish. Yeah, I'll accept the draw is, well, if white doesn't blunder anything big, I simply lost in time, so 11 seconds. Alright, white somewhat misplayed it by the end. And by the way, look at the rating of Stilts. Wow, my friend, you became much stronger, so 2600 plus. Nice. Very nice. Where did I misplay it? So white played good, so just a standard thing. So yeah, I had a feeling during the game that h6 was just a bad idea in general. So instead of playing h6, I should have played the same. So maybe just c5, takes d4, b6, bishop b7. So having the bishop on g5. In many cases, it's quite helpful because bishop doesn't have a retreat to g3, so I can just exchange it by playing knight to h5 after my bishop is on e7. So many advantages of having that bishop on g5 for black. And h6 weakens position, unnecessary weakening, which gives white some play. And by the way, white based all his play later on this h4, g4, g5, right? So black did everything to activate his pieces, but failed to achieve, anything in this position. By the way, here after queen b8 was an interesting moment. So rook to a8 looks at first glance promising, but I'm not sure about this one because, well, if I take on a8, it's clear then g5 and white achieves what he wants. But I wanted actually to take on f4, and after rook c8, king to h7, my king is safe, and this g4 pawn most likely drops, which means that black has great chances here. So potentially to come up with a great attack. So if compared to just simply a queen against two rooks, here I have additionally two minor pieces, and I have great chances to create a tandem with the queen. So queen plus bishop, queen plus knight, potentially very bad for white. That's why probably this queen e3 was correct. And after that, and e5, well, I expected g5, in fact, against which I wanted to take on d4. And after knight to d4, I wasn't sure what to do. So probably I would have played bishop to e5 with the idea of bishop f4. Probably I would have just captured on d4 and then knight to e5, kind of activating everything. I mean, obviously after capturing on g5. So position is interesting. Position is quite complicated because if I don't have the counterplay here, real counterplay on the king side against this weakened pawns and weakened king, potentially white can exploit my weaknesses on b5 and d5. But after d takes c5, I think position is simply balanced. Maybe here I missed my chances to fight for anything. But I didn't see how to protect this pawn the normal way, because if my knight goes to f6, then just g5. And d5 drops, well, I didn't feel really comfortable here. All right, great game, interesting one. Thank you for this experience. Chasebow is the next, accept. I'm playing with white. Here we go. And again, we repeat the same line, but this time I will play queen takes c5. So you know what, I read a book on this line. I mean, not the whole book dedicated to this line, but at least something. So now we have something very similar to Berlin, but there is a difference. Pawn is on c5, not on c6. Which means I have this d5 square at my disposal, which can give me some great initiative, in my opinion. At least some nasty threats can be created after very simple castling, and then knight to d5. Yeah, and just knight to d5, right? Right. Just occupying this square and grabbing opponent's bishop immediately. It should be a good position for white, I guess. Maybe there is nothing. This can be also like that. So rook should go where? To d2 is tempting, just to have d1 square for another one. But on d2 it is potentially exposed to different sorts of attacks. And I'm not sure I want to give my opponent this chance. Where to put the rook? That's a question. Let's go to d1. I'm not sure I had the time to double my rooks along the d file. Instead, I'm going to try something like this. Strange move at first glance, but if I play bishop c4, then rook goes to f8, protecting f7. And then knight goes to b6, attacking my bishop. I'm not sure I have good squares to go away. And here my idea is, in fact, to stop the pawn on c5, maybe to play c4. Maybe even right away. Because if I play bishop f5, then knight goes to b6 again, and then the knight is being centralized. White has nothing, absolutely. So let's try c4. Slightly limiting the activity of opponent's minor pieces. Okay, knight goes the other way. So if knight goes to e6, and most likely knight will go to e6 sooner or later, I guess I can afford just taking it. So I think that bishop on e7 is not necessarily that great. And pawn on e6 will be completely weak to the rest of the game. Okay, h5 is not necessarily that dangerous. After g5 I will just go to f5, I think. So let's bring the king closer to the center. And closer to the c4 pawn, just in case it will be attacked. And let's grab it. So should I exchange all the rooks here, or... Well, first of all, black will probably avoid exchanging all the rooks. But I think my first move should be this one. Fixing the pawn on g6. Because if it goes to g5 and then to g4, well, black may be even better. Now I guess position is more or less balanced. At least it feels like that. But potentially, I mean, long term, there can be some chances for me. If I manage to improve my pieces, especially maneuver my knight somewhere to a much better, to a much more active position, I'll definitely have some chances. So first of all, what to do here? So bringing the king somewhere towards e2 square looks natural, looks logical. Maybe e3 even, protecting the knight additionally. Feels like a good idea. But I probably underestimate opponent's chances and opponent's play in general. I'm not sure I actually understood that after rook to c1 he can simply take on h4. But then I can take on b5 and take on c5 on the other hand. This may be interesting potentially, but not quite clear to me. Do I have any other chance? No. Let's go there. Okay, f2 is hanging. That's the problem. But then my knight jumps to g5. Alright, this may be very, very tricky. And very, very interesting hands. Oops. Missed this one as well. Now it's bad. Or maybe not. No, it's obviously bad. But this gives me a chance, if I'm not mistaken. I have a counterplay now. I have a good counterplay now. Like a lot of tempo moves. No, I'm stupid. I have no counterplay whatsoever. Yeah, I was completely outplayed in this game. Completely outplayed. Yeah. It's over now. Yeah, the king is completely safe on g5, so I can easily resign here. Well, the last trick. Yeah, there were no tricks. It's simply lost. Okay. Thanks a lot for the game. That was very instructive. I mean, this rook f3 was really nice. Rook f3 was really nice. As for the rest, well, I'm not that sure. But I definitely missed this rook f3. That was fantastic. And I actually missed b5. That was my first mistake. So let's come back slightly to this position. So king d2 was obviously a mistake, I guess. Well, at very least after king d2 and b5, I should have just come back to c3. And I'm still okay here. Yeah, that was my mistake. Rook to c1 was completely misplayed. So I evaluated the resulting position wrong just because I didn't see rook to f3. Okay, so after king c3, position is still balanced, I guess. So black has some pressure along the f file, some pressure against my h4 pawn. I have some pressure along the d file potentially, especially now after b5 is played. And well, it's the question if white finds anything here. So there are some interesting things like rook h3, rook g3, but black anyway has some like rook g4, so it's probably not that dangerous. So most likely white has to play something like rook d1 at some point, and then rook to d7. Okay, giving up this h4 pawn, but then making rooks active and playing against this c6 and so forth. So I guess this should be balanced, but what I played was completely wrong. Maybe my last chance was here, just to take on h4, rook h4, and to take on b5 right now. Rook takes f2, king goes to, but this leads to the same thing like in the game, I guess. So takes on g2, takes on c5, rook here, check, king goes to d4, only move, takes here, and takes on a2, just like in the game. So it's lost for white. Okay, thanks a lot for the game. And here's Shovingforit. So let's try to do something. And white pieces. Well, I'm not surprised. Because it always happens like this. So maybe we'll have something like Tarish, or what is that? So after e6, c4 is definitely Tarish. If cd4, knight d4, it's like in Catalan, so bishop on g2 becomes active sooner or later. I play c4, making this long diagonal quite vulnerable. I think, quite vulnerable, I'm not sure. And so on. Alright, let's go. Let's go. Bishop to e7, so how this is played? I think cd5 and knight c3 deserves attention. Or maybe just knight to c6, I don't know. Knight to c6 starts looking like Rubinstein's Salve. A lot of games played on that topic, so then c5 square is being attacked. Maybe it makes sense to prepare everything carefully. So knight to c3 first, and then to see what's going on. Or it's maybe just the main line of Tarish, because I've never played Tarish myself with black, and I'm not a d4 player, so I also rarely saw this position from white's perspective. So let's try to understand what could be the best move for white. Bishop to g5 deserves attention, obviously. Knight to c6 is also a candidate. I like the idea of bringing the bishop to g5, just attacking something in black's position. But if black plays h6, I don't think I have bishop takes f6, because bishop f6 counter-attacking the knight on d4. So most likely after h6 I have to retreat with the bishop. And this h6 may be just a slight weakness. Some additional weakening of the position, so I don't think it is a big problem that I spend the time on this. Bishop g5, bishop f4. a6 was played, preventing knight to b5, most likely. Okay, now I think rook to c1 should be just a follow-up. Now I'm really tempted just to take here and to play knight to a4, attacking c6 and intending to bring my knight to c5 square. Just like in Rubinstein's Salve. Classic game. But obviously bishop should go to c5 to try to exchange dark squid bishop. First b3, of course. Not to let the pawn hanging. What's going on? Rook takes a3 will be played. Yeah, I guess that is what I'm missing here. I told you I'm tired. So you knew that in advance. So there may be some tactics connected with the rook takes e3. And everything I have here is just to hope that the compensation will be not sufficient. So at the moment I have some advantage on the clock, but I don't think it is very important. Let's start with the rook to avoid bishop f5 with the tempo. So now white should be clearly better long term. Okay, I don't see a reason not to play e3 because my rook on c5 is protected at least right now. Should be careful though, because there are some ideas like, yeah, rook b4, rook a4, obviously. So I should protect my rook now. Queen c1 looks like an option. I'm giving my opponent some unnecessary counterplay, I guess. But queen c3 is still something that looks quite solid, protecting d3 square and attacking the rook. And maybe it makes sense for me to play rook to d1, but then bishop goes to g4. Okay, so let's go there, attacking a6 and preparing knight to c5 maneuver. Bishop to c8 was played. So knight to c5, then rook goes to b5. Okay. Slight transformation. I think this also gives me some chances. But I should be careful with opponent's counterplay. Feels like I'm starting misplaying it slightly. Okay, f3 should be controlled. Queen is under attack. Annoying resource. Yeah, I misplayed it. I definitely misplayed it. But after knight g6, well, I'm more or less satisfied with my position because, you know, everything is protected. I have much better pawn structure here. So it should be quite good. Should be just winning now, I think, gradually. This was an important move, I think. Yeah, I continue misplaying it. I just continue misplaying it. Do I have real chance here or not? Just have no time. Just have no time to evaluate all this. Yeah, I lost on time. All right, but the position was absolutely drawish, right? Okay, no questions. In the sense of the quality of the game, it was quite good. I mean, taking into account my state of mind right now, because I'm almost sleeping, it was quite good. So at some point I had a great advantage, just a typical one, but somewhere here I started giving my opponent absolutely unnecessary counter chances. So I should have done something much more convincing with this knight on e5 and this potential threat of bishop to g4. That was probably my main mistake. So most likely after this rook to b8 move, I should have played very simple move h3. Protecting this g4 square, which is very important, and still having the rook on c5, which is also very important. For example, if queen goes to f6, I can play f4. and it's just lost for black. So after knight goes to g6, because there are no tricks connected with all this, I just take on f6, play something like into f2, and it's lost. Look at this minor pieces, they're just very bad. So then I play rook to c1, bishop to f1, and gradually just play against these pawns, right? So if there is no bishop g4, there is obviously no knight to f3 threat. I have this threat of playing f4. I can play it even here in the middle game, I think. So it's a typical thing for positions of this kind. Let's say black does something like rook to b5. So I can consider playing f4, and after knight to g6, I play the same, king to f2, and this e3, which looks weak, in fact protected absolutely, and I do the same. I just activate my rook, then bring my bishop to f1, and so forth. So strategically lost position for black, simply. And I started doing something bad here, so I played rook to a5. Well, maybe rook to a5 wasn't that bad, but I don't have a follow-up here, and this means my rook should go back, more or less. So rook e1 was really stupid. But after rook to b5, I should have played, I guess, just immediate e4. Just immediate e4 was interesting. Opening up the e-file and, well, maybe trying to activate the rook. Should be slightly better for white anyway. After this, I completely underestimated this counterplay. So bishop to g4. Don't know what should be the correct reaction to this bishop g4 move. Maybe just ignoring this threat of knight f3, but it felt like something really dangerous. Maybe I should have played f4 here, in fact. Yeah, f4 again deserves serious attention. And after that, I just take, and maybe king f2, attacking the bishop. Immediately getting rid of that bishop, so preventing all this play. Connect with queen h3 and then queen to g2 and so forth. So bishop to g4 maybe. But then I guess my knight is by no means worse here, so I can play a4, let's say. Queen goes to d4. Again, gorgeous position, potentially better for white. But now that I have this king and some weakening of the position, it's no longer that clear. And by the end, it was really interesting. I think it was also winning for white at some point, somewhere here. Knight to e6. Okay, I took. This looked correct. Maybe rook to a1 wasn't necessary. In fact, this rook to c1 was already quite strange. I just wanted to protect my knight, in fact, in the view of this rook a5. And here... okay, this looks not that bad. A5, rook here, knights. Alright, this should be winning for white, I think. Yeah, here is how I could have captured the bishop, I think. So a7, rook here, rook to b1, rook takes a7 forced, rook b8, rook c7, bishop to a6, and white wins. Yeah, just bishop a6 and that's over. So d3, I just play king f2, it's important. I can also just take on c8 with the bishop here, that is also winning. So d2, bishop e6 check, and then I stop the pawn. It's over. Yeah, just a7 followed by rook b1 wins. Yeah, the rest is not really interesting. The rest is not very interesting. So it's a clear win for white. All right. But it's interesting about this ending. I mean, king and pawn ending was also quite interesting. So g4. So let's have a look. I played g4. Takes, king a6. h4, king here. Maybe simply king to d3. I somehow miscalculated. I thought I'm much faster, but probably just king to d3 wins here. Just stopping the pawn d4. I still have this g5. And h5 if I want, so king c6 doesn't really help, I mean. And if king to b4, I play the same. For example, takes, but now c4. Yeah, black is... Yeah, this ending wasn't winning, I think. So there was misunderstanding, there was misevaluation of the position. All right. Yeah. So I had a clear win after a7, rook b1. I just missed it. Okay. Let's go further. Let's go further. Crowning student is the next. Again, we continue this discussion of the Scotch. So I decided to try something new. I'm not sure knight f5 is really good. I guess something simple like knight c6 and bishop d3 should be played against this so-called Malanuke line. Because now this knight will be a target. So I can play knight to e7, I think. Knight to e7 is the most logical move here, but also something like d6 deserves attention to start with, to limit the activity of the bishop f4 and to exert some pressure on knight f5 with the bishop. And the next move can be knight to e7. Can't see a problem with that. Don't want to give up my light squid bishop for this knight. Would be just nice to win some tempo if knight retreats. So knight e7 is a development move, and at the same time attack the knight. Knight on g3. Alright, so the idea is probably just to play knight to h5. Which is also, in my opinion, not that dangerous for black. So I can try knight to g6 now, with the idea of bringing my knight to h4. And that's an interesting stuff. But also with the idea of just exchanging dark squared bishops. So bishop probably should go away, and then I will play bishop g5, getting rid of my stupid bishop, which is limited with pawn c3. Exchanging it for this one, which is potentially important, controlling squares like f4, for example. Oops, I missed queen d5 check. Oh my god. I missed queen d5 check. Nice. Nice shot. Yeah, I'm just blundering badly. I should have castled and then bishop g5 with a nice position. Or at least I could have started with knight c6 to e5 and then bishop g5 with a great position, just perfect one. But now it's late. It's late to think about it. I'm just losing material. I'm just losing material, and my only hope is just to survive it now. Yeah. Such a bad play. Such a bad play. And here is the comment, chess is torture. Yeah. When you are completely tired and exhausted, chess really becomes a torture. Because you miss obvious things, you misplay everything badly, and you just can't see this, right? So right now I have some sort of compensation, I guess. Some sort of compensation, like a tiny thing, tiny compensation. Because my pieces are still slightly more active. And I have some objects of attack, which is nice. But it's a short-term thing. Long term, I'm clearly worse. So maybe this one. Maybe we can chase the bishop. And grab at least the bishop. Bishop d4. Alright, so now if I take the bishop cd4, it only helps white, I think. So what can I do? I can try something active here. Yeah, very convincing. Very, very, very convincing play. It's very hard to find anything against it. Let's go and counterattack. Okay, so finally I got the bishop. But does it make my position any better? That's a big question. That's a big question. I don't think so. But, well, I have some assets. So now I have pressure on the queen side. I have potentially some play along the g file. Well, this bishop actually controls the situation on both flanks. So it leaves me some hopes. And this gives my knight e5 square, which is also quite interesting. Should I play h5 or not? I guess yeah, because otherwise knight goes to h5, blockading that pawn and occupies very nice position, exerting pressure on my f6. So now let's go here. And here. So now I have some objects of attack. I already like my position, but again, I have not so much time. So I can easily misplay it. But now e4 is under pressure, and most likely the knight will be forced back to d2. I don't see any other sensible defense. But how to continue this attack? I'm not that sure. This pawn is hanging. No, I love my position now. Now it's just winning for black. and checkmate. I was super lucky in this game. I was super lucky, of course. So I misplayed this at the very beginning. So I played, well, that was alright. That was very good. And now, just play knight to e5 first, attacking the bishop. That was so obvious. I mean, that there should be something after bishop g5 because all the pieces are so vulnerable. And after knight e5, the bishop is under attack. And for example, if it goes away somewhere, I just play now this bishop g5. There is no trick with the bishop f7 anymore. And black has, in my opinion, already slightly better position. So it is at least slightly more pleasant to play with black because I get to some dark squares here. So for example, after queen d2, I can takes and I put my queen somewhere. I don't know where is the best square. Maybe on h4 even. Maybe immediately, maybe after castling. But okay, so like queen f6 and fighting for this f4. Wow, there is also knight f4 move. Yeah, knight f4 is the best one. I don't even need the queen here because if queen takes f4, I just go knight to d3. But I'm missing this tactics again. So bishop takes f7, and look at this. Yeah, if I take with the knight, queen takes f4. If I take with the king, queen takes f4 with check. So I don't know. Yeah, this position is not cool for black, so maybe knight f4 doesn't work here. Okay, but something like knight to g4 should do. So knight to g4 castles, and then this knight here on the king side should be quite useful and quite good. So I think it's in control in this dark squares. Maybe I should have just castled here, you know. After all this analysis, I think that was a good decision. But in that case, white is ready to play f4, so he castles as well and plays f4 at some point. Maybe now just knight e5, bishop b3, and knight to g4. Yeah, this looks interesting. And after bishop d4, let's say, I can bring even this knight to f4. Looks scary, no? So maybe it's just equal still, but feels like black simply has no problems in this situation, and only white has to think of how to equalize this comfortably. Yeah, but I play this stupid bishop g5, and after bishop f7, well, I'm just material down. After knight to e5, I have a feeling that this b3 was too slow and too passive. But maybe there is no better way to prevent all these threats, because if king goes to e2, there is a check from c4, potentially annoying, and yeah, I definitely have some play. Yeah, okay, b3 was probably good. I played a5, knight to d2. Well, everything was alright. I mean, except for giving up that bishop. Maybe instead of playing knight to d2, it was a good idea just to maneuver the bishop already. Maybe not. Alright, so let's have a look at this one, because this one also felt very, very nice. White misplayed it only somewhere towards the end of the game, somewhere around the end of the game. So knight to f6, f4, good. b4. Yeah, I don't like this bishop f6, in fact. I really don't like it. So I guess there should be something much more convincing than this, because I don't think I have real threats here. So knight d4, cd4, bc3, bishop c3, so there are no real threats. But after e5, I thought I would have some counterplay based on bc3 takes and knight to d5. Maybe if everything is about this position. So something like bishop b2 should be very promising with the threat of just f5. Attacking all my pieces, opening up a position, and white starts the attack. And pay attention, we have opposite colored bishops here, which means that the one who starts the attack can benefit enormously. Yeah, I guess this was great for white. Just playing this aggressive e5 and f5. Because taking this knight on f6 isn't great. So this knight is bad, right? And after g takes f6, well, yeah, white is still better, no questions, but now I have some counterplay. And again, I'm not sure that f5 was a great decision, because it fixes the pawn on e4, fixes the weakness on e4, and gives my knight a great outpost on e5. And after this h4, as we may notice, your extra pawn is no longer that felt, right? So actually black is much more active already. So Yeah, this position is already good for black, I guess. I mean, it's still not necessary to blunder the material, but it's definitely no longer that simple for white to make decisions here, especially a bit short of time. And this one is just very good. So I somewhere misplayed it. So after rook to d1, I should have played something else. Not this ab3, although ab3 was probably also winning. But maybe something connected with king to e7, but in that case, knight takes f6. Alright, maybe I can just win that knight easily, like rook to g5. No, knight takes f6 still. Yeah, it's unclear. It's still unclear slightly. And maybe ab3 was okay. But after rook d6, I think rook a2 was just a bluff. So after this, it's possible just to grab the bishop. Alright. And now I'm not sure if there is a checkmate or something. Oh, there is. Wow. No, there is no. If king goes to f3, there is no checkmate. So I can check here. If king goes here, then e4 is still a checkmate. Very nice one, by the way. But king can go to f3, and I think there is no checkmate. Because if e4, okay, king goes here. So what? There is nothing. So yeah, there was a moment. There was a chance. Maybe even rook to f6 was great just to start with. And after king e7, obviously just taking the bishop was a move. And, well, most likely white is winning here. Maybe I have some counterplay, but white also has amazing threat of just playing f6 and so forth. Okay. Yeah. So what happened, guys? Did anything happen to the stream, or what's going on? So I just noticed... Just Zweihausek says same here, then Dutch Defender says weird. Zweihausek says indeed. Do you discuss just what happens on the board or something else? Not sure, just let me know shortly. Okay, let's continue. Dr. Balu is the next. And white pieces. Strange thing. Okay, c5 was played. Knight to f3. So let's try to refresh the chat because it feels like it is a bit stuck. So I can't really understand what is going on. So I need some time to manipulate it. Okay, so Sicilian takes on d4. Yeah. Okay, chat is back. But I probably missed your answer. No, I guess everything is still fine. All right, so h6 carries attack, and h6 is very, very testing line. Okay, let's try this one, although I'm sure it is not the best one. The idea is simple. I attack c6 now. And we come up with this pawn structure. So c6, a7, typical one for this line. But my position is compromised by this g4 pawn, which is annoying. Andrey, don't touch, it's working. Okay. Bishop takes d6. Would be embarrassing for Andrey to lose 3 games in a row. Yeah, that's right. But well, I'm here not to win the games. I'm here to teach you, mainly. So result is not very important after all. I guess bishop e7 is not the best, but bishop e5 is an interesting one, still controlling f4 square. Now I can try something like this, just attacking the knight. And we gradually get to this c6 pawn, so bishop g2 becomes more and more active against that pawn. So knight b4 is obviously an option. Maybe that's why c4 is slightly premature, but we'll see. So I just take the queen. Right now, black has a choice between taking with the king and the bishop. If bishop takes, black has to be ready for this knight d6. If king takes, well, the king becomes quite vulnerable as well. So I have some chances to attack it. But at the moment I have a problem with the knight c2, so maybe the right way to solve this is to castle, because at the same time I prepare rook to d1 check. Okay, I like the idea of having the rook on d1. Exerting direct pressure on the king and the bishop on d7. And my midterm plan is something like bishop e3, bishop c5 maybe. Just winning the fight for this important outpost for my minor piece. And then once my knight occupies this c5, and in that case it will stay there forever, I will have a nice pressure in black's position. Great one. Rook to c8. What is the idea behind this move? Probably just to play c5 or something. Okay. Knight to d6 is also an interesting idea, just grabbing the bishop e7, because it is forced after that to take on d6. And I can potentially exploit the weakness of dark squares in black's camp with the help of my dark squared bishop. I can start with the bishop f4. I guess this is a move. Yeah, nice position for white. So we can d6 square, we can c5 square, this pawn on c6, this pawn on a7 are all my targets. And in general, the coordination of white's pieces is much better than the one of black. Because, well, black is definitely underdeveloped. The skin on d8 is ugly. Bishop on d7 is pinned and very passive. Rook on h8 is not connected to the rook on c8. So a lot of problems, in fact. A lot of big problems here. Now I can simply try just doubling rooks along the d file. This may be very annoying, maybe the most annoying thing for black in this position. I don't know, let's try rook d3 followed by rook to d1. Another option is, again, just to play knight to d6, bishop d6, bishop d6. This is maybe the most straightforward plan. Let's do this. I like this idea of having the bishop on d6, additionally limiting the king and the knight a6. Yeah. Now I can come up with this very active b4. Another idea behind having the bishop on d6, so I don't have to spend the time on something passive like a3. I can play a4 with one move, and then b5, creating a passed pawn very, very soon. By the way, b5 was possible immediately with the idea cb5 and bishop b7. Okay. Missed that opportunity, but I think the way I play is also absolutely acceptable and should lead to an easy win. Maybe not. It can be also that I just... no. It's exactly the case of easy win. And tempo move c7, preparing rook to d8 wins. Okay? Okay. It's over now. What happened? I didn't notice h5 move. It was played several moves ago, by the way. That was strange. All right, so as I said before, bishop to e5 should be played, not bishop to e7 in this position. So the bishop should remain active. And in this case, it's quite different, because if I play c4, you have this square to occupy. And I guess on f4, it is much better than on b4, in my opinion. And even if there is no knight f4, or knight f4 doesn't give you anything, bishop on e5 just exerts pressure on b2, which means I don't have this easy development of the queen side. So it's a different position, different play. After bishop b7, just quite passive. So I play this, take here, simple castling, and so forth. But here I think you made another mistake. So bishop d7 was super ugly. Instead, you should have tried to use the d4 square maybe. So e5 deserved attention here, attacking g4 and preparing knight c2, knight to d4, this regrouping. At the same time, preparing the normal development of the bishop to e6 square, and the king simply should go to c7. So something like this deserves serious attention, and in this case I would say position is still unclear, so it is still playable for black. I guess there are still chances, but after bishop d7 there are no chances whatsoever. I just play rook here, bishop f4, and the rest is simple. I just use each and every square for my pieces, while your pieces are simply very, very bad. All right. Let's play the last game, I guess, for today, and it will be Big Board G 2015, except. Scandinavian, it should be fun. Should be fun. I'm curious, against c takes d5, can I play g4, g5 and take on d5? Or is it just crazy or anything? I don't know. Let's play g4. Bishop g6, and I wanted to try this g5. Maybe I should start with the h4, but in that case I won't have this possibility. So let's play g5. It can't be good for white, I guess. But looks interesting, right? and take with the knight. And currently I enjoy the material advantage. But black will definitely have a compensation because this pawn on g5, well, just weakens my position so badly. So let us simplify the things. Bishop f4 was quite risky because of e7, e5, opening everything. e6. Now let's take the bishop. And it's time to start developing the pieces somehow. Let's protect d4. I think it's important. Put the king on f2. Because bishop d2 would be just very stupid after playing bishop e3. Moreover, there is something tactical like queen takes g5, I guess. Now I have extra pawn and pair of bishops. So once I manage to coordinate my pieces, I should have a decisive advantage. So let's try. Let's try. Let's put the knight on h3, protecting g5, because it feels like black will play something like f6 or f5. In which case my knight can go to f4, or it can also stay on h3, protecting g5 and being ready to recapture there. So I love my position now. It looks very, very good. If e5, I play d5, right? That is my plan. Maybe it makes sense even to grab more space with the f4. Let's try this. To bring the bishop to g2, to control the whole board, to control the center additionally, and so forth. And this knight b6 prevents me from playing immediate bishop to g2, so I guess I have to spend the time on just b3 move, protecting c4 first. And then bishop g2 will be playable. Okay. I have a feeling that f6 should have been played anyway, so it's the only chance for black to come up with the counterplay. Everything else looks just not enough. Let's try to use it. f6. Okay. I can take on g6. After f takes g5, I can play queen to h5. It should be somewhat decisive. I think f6 is too late. It was necessary to play rook d8 already. And queen h5, sorry. Now there is a simple threat of just queen h7. And I can't see a good defense. Another strategy is to take on g5, and there will be a threat of queen h8. Yeah, it's over now. So, several things. I have no idea what is going on in the theory of this line. I was just playing like random moves here, so this g4, g5 doesn't look like a good idea in general. And there should be something for black. So first of all, I'm not sure that knight e7 is a good idea. Maybe knight to h5 is better. Because in that case, queen controls d4. Or maybe even knight to g8, you know. The idea that after knight d5, I just play e6, attacking my knight. My d4 is under pressure. So next move will be bishop b4 check if knight goes anywhere except for c3. If knight gets to c3, there is knight c6 with the just direct attack, creating a threat of knight to b4, by the way. I think it should be quite bad for white, in fact. So after g5, knight d7, knight takes d5, there is also an interesting thing. But, well, in this case, we may notice I have this idea just eliminating a bishop, which makes a difference, I guess. Instead of e6, e5 deserves serious attention. So if you have the advantage in development, you should definitely try to open up. You should definitely do everything to open up a position. That's what I mean. So d takes c5, knight takes c5, and your knights start getting closer to my king, attacking some concrete things like d3, f3. There is bishop b4, and white's position becomes quite dangerous, even though I have a chance to trade queens here. I don't think it solves all my problems here. So e6 was too passive. Where after I just took here, played bishop e3, now I'm ready. Now I'm absolutely okay, because if you play e5, I play d5. And the rest was just a conversion, by the way, not very convincing. So here after f4, you should have played f6, should have tried this move, creating a concrete threat of f takes g5. Taken several times because my king is here on the f file, so f4 is potentially pinned, so I have to spend the time on moving my king somewhere, so it gives you some tiny chances, okay? But again, playing this passive way like b3, queen c7 was too much. Here I should have played definitely something connected with just maybe bishop g2, completing the development or something like that. I made a mistake, I guess. After h5, you had a great chance to play rook to d8 with some counterplay. So after hg6, f takes g6, there is a threat of just taking on d4 twice because of bishop c5. So let's imagine I make a random move just to show you this idea. So takes, takes, takes. Queen takes and bishop c5. Wins a queen. So this is definitely a counterplay. So maybe I have to go away with the king, but you still have this idea, knight d4, bishop c5. So position all of a sudden becomes unclear. So most likely, well, this queen c7 wasn't bad after all. Yeah, and I should have played something better here. So maybe I should have tried rook to c1 instead of b3. And now it stops you from playing queen to c7. At least it gives me a chance to try d5 now, right? Okay. That was an interesting thing. So just d4, d5, and e5, cd5. The knight is pinned and so on. I can support this pawn with the bishop and so on. Yeah. So you should have played much more active at the very beginning of the game. 100%. So just to try to open up a position and to try to punish me for neglecting opening principles. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you guys for being with me. I was not in the best shape this week. I was really tired. Hopefully next week will be better. At very least, we will start 2 hours earlier, so I will be definitely not that tired at that point. And we'll most likely play much better chess. Premium users are welcome as usual. This coming Tuesday, a training Tuesday, our topic is Tarsh was right. So what does it mean? You'll find out on Tuesday. Have a nice weekend and see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.